Uh, Pleasure to be here and nice to see so many people. Uh, and which would be pretty close to the full attendance, looks like, so full house. Uh, a bit about myself before I get started. I've been with NBN for the last 3.5 years now, and I've done multiple roles and multiple activities. But in the last 15 months, I have been very focused on conversations with seniors. So retirement villages, Probus clubs, computer pals, Rotary clubs, uh, toy recyclers club somewhere in the northern beaches. So all sorts of presentations and conversations with seniors. And I think I love it also because my opinion is that with the whole NBN rollout, uh, the challenge seems to be more with seniors because uh, they're used to the old ways of communicating, and the transition can be a little daunting. So without further ado, have got a slideshow here which I want to lean and share off, but I would like to keep it interactive. So perhaps save the questions for later and then we can get to them. Uh, I'm not sure if I can see the whole screen. Maybe I can see the whole screen. Quick question before I move further. If you can show me by raising your hands, how many people are already connected to NBN? Okay. So not many, about, I would say 25%. Yeah, okay. All right, so I'll get started with my slide and then we will get the conversation going. So a couple of things, I would say three key takeaways, if you can, from today's session is get a better idea of what NBN is as a project, as an organization. B, what the rollout, the whole upgrade means to you, how it impacts you. That's point number two. Point number three, if and what you need to do about it. So what NBN is, get a holistic understanding of what NBN is, what this whole upgrade process and the rollout means to you, impacts you, and what you need to do about it. So it's not going to happen. That's very important because it's not going to happen automatically. So NBN has been rolling out across the country. We are upgrading the telephone and internet infrastructure in the country. To give you a little perspective, the good old telephone cables, when they were laid 100 years back or 50 years back or 70 years back, their primary purpose was to make phone calls. There was no internet then. Now we have tweaked the same good old cable to work with internet, and that's what they call ADSL. ADSL1, ADSL, ADSL1, ADSL2, ADSL2 plus. So they have been modifying and tweaking it around to make it work on the existing infrastructure, which has got its limitations, hence the need for the upgrade. Loosely speaking, the example I give in terms of analogy is in people who are familiar with Sydney, there is Parramatta Road. Once upon a time, Parramatta Road was good enough to handle the traffic in the city. Then time came, then they realized that no, they need an M4, they need an M2, and they need an M7. Essentially the same. So the traffic on the internet is going up and up and up. The number of devices in people's homes are increasing. Each individual, once upon a time, even think of landline as well. Once upon a time, the landline used to sit in one corner, of your home, and that's how it would stay. Then we got cordless phones with multiple handsets. Now, in case of computer and iPads and mobile phones, each individual person has got 3-4 devices. And think of a household where there are 4 people living. Just guesstimate how many devices are there at home which need to connect to the internet. And then on top of that, throw the smart TVs, the smart air conditioners, the smart bulbs and everything. Long story short, the traffic on the internet is increasing every year, and hence the need to upgrade the infrastructure so that it can deal with that traffic. Hence the rollout of NBN across the country, which has been happening for the last few years. Some areas have been ready for the last 4 or 5 years. Some areas are getting ready now. I live in Lane Cove. My building got ready in 2017. This is kind of a little big picture of what NBN is. Often people confuse NBN with another Telstra, another Optus, another new organization. So NBN is a government business enterprise, pretty much like Australia Post. The only difference is that in case of Australia Post, you do financial transactions with Australia Post directly, and Australia Post services you as a customer. In case of government, in case of NBN, we are a government business enterprise, but we deal with you as an end user, as a customer, always via a phone and internet service provider. The bottom right-hand side box, the telephone internet service provider. In the tech world, they are also called as ISPs, internet service provider. In our lingo, we also call them RSPs, retail service providers. So NBN is a wholesaler. It sells its products to the retail service provider, and the retail service provider then services you. You never buy anything directly from NBN. Having said that, there are a few exceptions to that rule. For example, if you have a block and you subdivide that block and make one house into two houses, and then there's a new dwelling, and you need to get a new connection going for that new dwelling. In that case, you will have a conversation with NBN to get the new cable installed, the new infrastructure going into that new dwelling. That is more of an exception, but as a thumb rule, for your phone and internet services at home, you will always go to a phone and internet service provider. At this stage in the real world, I asked this question that any guesses how many service providers are out there, but because most of you are on mute, I will say the number. We have about 140, 150 service providers to choose from, depending on the area you live in. In metro areas, we have that many service providers. When you go to regional areas and rural areas, that number goes down slightly because the technology changes over in these areas. Also, from the management point of view, so the federal government has shareholder ministers. NBN reports to the federal department, and we also work with NBN approved contractors and delivery partners. You might have noticed these people in high-vis vests on the streets installing equipment, running a new cable. Some of you who have already connected might have had a visit from these contractors. So these are contractors and subcontractors hired by NBN to complete the job. So that is the ownership and management side of NBN. My point number, get a better understanding what NBN is. We're not another Telstra. Telstra is a service provider. Telstra is buying services from NBN, selling it to you. Telstra, Optus, Vodafone, they all are in that category of service providers. We have got so many now to choose from. Now, so the point number two, how it's going to impact you. So the good old area cell telephone lines will be discontinued eventually. So if you have, the question to ask yourself, if you have a landline phone and you have any kind of a fixed line internet, it could be a Telstra cable, Optus cable, or good old area cell connection, and if you intend to keep it after the NBN rollout in your area finishes, or rather the disconnection process finishes, if you intend to keep it, you will have to upgrade to an NBN connected plan. Yeah, think of it like this. A couple of years back, when government decided to switch off the analog free-to-air television, and if you had an old telly, you were asked or expected to get a set-top box to connect to your TV and connect your antenna into that set-top box. That set-top box was that digital to analog converter. It took that digital signal from the TV towers, converted into your analog signal so your TV can understand, a bit of a translator. So hence the need for an upgrade for an NBN connected landline or NBN connected internet, because the process is getting digital. So again, repeat myself, if you have a landline phone and if you intend to keep it, $1 million question, because we live in the days of mobiles, then you will have to upgrade to an NBN plan. If you have an internet connection coming through a cable, one way or the other, Telstra, Optus, Vodafone, ADSL, you intend to keep it, it will need to be upgraded to NBN. Take that with a grain of salt, and when you share this comment I make with your friends and family who live in regional Australia, this may not apply to them. So one size does not fit all. There are 5 different types of NBN connections spread across the country, depending on where you live. So what applies to me may not necessarily apply to you, or may not necessarily apply to your family member who lives in the regional part of the country. Like Paul earlier mentioned, luckily he's getting fiber to the premises. I'm getting fiber to the I've got fiber to the node. So the hardware, the cable connection is different. We all connected to the same NBN services at the back end, but the way we are connected, he's got a 4-lane highway, I've got a 2-lane road, and he's probably using a special high-speed Ferrari car to commute, and I'm using a good old Camry to commute. So that's the kind of difference we're talking about. But the basic objective is same, getting from point A to point B. Without confusing this any further, so landline, home phone, internet, if you have and you intend to keep it, then you will have to upgrade to the NBN plans. This is the biggest change and biggest challenge which happens when you have an NBN landline phone. Right now, if you have a basic landline phone, you plug into the power supply, plug it into the wall socket, good to go. Come NBN, invariably you will have 1 box or 2 boxes required at your home, and this landline phone, in this case it is a cordless phone which is showed over here, will connect to that box, not to the wall socket. And there will be another cable which will go from this box on the left hand side to the socket on the wall. So this is what, and depending on the type of connection you get, so this is an example of fiber to the building and fiber to the node. If you have the hybrid fiber coaxial or fiber to the premises or fiber fixed wireless kind of setup, it'll be different. This is just an example to show you how things will change and will look different when it comes to the NBN connected landline phone. One thing you might notice that everything here requires a power supply. Downside of the whole thing, I like to keep things real. Downside of the whole thing, if there is a power outage, the whole thing goes dead, right? So which is different to your current landline. If it is connected to a wall socket, and if the exchange has got a power backup, which more often than not it has, your line still continues to work. So that is a perceived drawback for some people, but a lot of people also say that they have got a mobile phone which they use more often than the landline. So for them, it's not exactly a big issue or a big challenge. So once NBN, your home is ready for NBN, what do you need to do? Then the ball is in your court. The way we inform you that NBN is now available for your address is via a letter. Some of you might have received a phone call from a Nicole claiming to be working from NBN, advising you that, hey, your internet will get disconnected in 24 hours. Got to press button 1 or press button 2. Nicole doesn't work at NBN. That Nicole doesn't. Maybe there's another Nicole who works at NBN, but that we don't call you. We don't knock on your door. We don't call you. So last week we participated in government's scam awareness week. And because NBN is such a hot topic right now, people are misusing it blatantly. I'm calling from NBN. Your internet is getting disconnected, or knocking on your door. I need to visit your home for a site inspection. We do not do those things. Simple procedure we follow when we get an address ready for NBN. We send you a letter to the resident. We don't even have your name on our database. To the resident, house number so-and-so, NBN is now available at your address. Please contact your preferred service provider. The ball is in your court at that moment in time. And we give you up to 18 months time. Take that up to with a grain of salt, because again, from my personal experience in NBN Co, I got first notified in December 2016. And I thought I had 18 months. but I got my final reminder in April or March 2017, which means I got about 15 months before they disconnected the old services. So people who are on ADSL, it might be a good thing to move on it sooner than later, because your experience will be better than what you have had. And there's a good probability you might be able to save some money. Like in my case, I'm paying $10 less compared to my ADSL plan before, and compared to what I'm paying now. So I was paying $79.99 earlier, now I'm paying $69.99. Again, depending on the provider to provider, this can be, you know, different. So do your homework. So once you know that your address is ready, go shopping, speak to multiple service providers. There is some data over here which says check how much you're going to use, etc., etc. But if you're, you know, tech savvy, by all means do that, because 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. is what 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. is for M2 and M7, and 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. is for M2 and M7, the peak hour traffic. Kids are back from school, people are back from home, people are back from work home, switching on their Netflix, doing their YouTube, doing the assignments, people playing games. So that is a peak hour. So if the speed, for example, if you were to do a speed test at 10 o'clock in the morning, it might say X, and there's a good probability that at 7 o'clock in the evening, that X might be half of X. So that is you know, drop down in speed. But again, going back to a comment I made earlier before I started this presentation, practically speaking, it is still sufficient for you to do what you do at home with your computer and internet. Watch YouTube, play games, read books, newspaper, send email, do some work. It does the job. So it's like I can drive at 100 kilometers per hour on M2 at 4 o'clock in the morning. But at 8:30 a.m. in the morning, coming towards city from suburbs, can I do that? Can't. So that speed drops. Same thing over here. But in case of NBN, and if you've got a good service provider, you've got 8 lanes of traffic. So when the traffic might increase, the lanes can keep up with it. Hence the need to have a good service provider. You know, cheapest is not necessarily, she's cheap for a reason. And the most expensive also doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting the best services. So that, hence we have a choice of 140 service providers. Word of mouth reference, ACCC runs a report on performance of various service providers monthly. So you can have a look at that, and that will give you an idea of which service provider is consistently performing better than the other. I'm not supposed to take names, so I won't do that. But if you're curious about this slide over here, you know, this is the peak time, and you can assess how much speed is sufficient for you. So there are two aspects to an NBN connection. One is the internet part. In the internet part, there are two aspects again. One is the speed, and the second is the amount of data you can download and upload. So speed is something on offer from NBN as well. So there is a plan A, plan B, plan C, and plan D. Let's call them 25, 50, and 12, 25, 50, and 100. So your service provider will give you the option to choose one of those speeds. The amount of data you can download, NBN has no control over that. That depends on the service provider, how much data they give you. But these days and times, it's very normal to have unlimited data. And that's what I have chosen. And gives you that peace of mind. You're not worried about how much data you're downloading, uploading, etc. If you're confused about what plan and, you know, what speed should I get, my thumb rule is, once you have chosen a provider, pick their entry-level plan. See how you go with it for a month. You're happy with it, stay with it. If not, next month, go to your provider, ask them to upgrade to the next level. They will not say no to an additional $10 or $5 more. Yeah. But if you start on a higher plan and want to come down, they might show you the T's and C's. No, you have signed a contract, you can't do, etc., etc. So ground floor, first floor, second floor, depending on how you go with the plan you have signed up for. How are we doing on time? 11. Okay. So this is a site where you can check your address when NBN is coming to you. So this is nbnco.com.au. It'll tell you if you're ready to connect, if there's more work which needs to be done. And it also tells you your scheduled disconnection date for your existing network, because we are now towards the end of the rollout. So the disconnection dates are a lot closer than previously mentioned. So these are the letters I talked about earlier. So once we get your place ready, we start sending you letters, reminders. We never call you. We never knock on your door expressing the urgency or trying to sell you a plan. So sometimes these letters, because they don't have your name on it, they get discarded in the assumption it's a junk mail. These are the kind of questions you can ask your provider. Be mindful of point number 2, because invariably all these providers try to use that as an opportunity to sell you additional Coke and fries and apple pie, like the McDonald's sales guy. Installation cost, new hardware cost, relocation fee, new phone. You need a new phone. The old phone won't work. 9 out of 10 times old phones will work. I actually have a picture. I've tested and taken a picture of a good old dialing phone working with NBN. Works fine. So don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So they use these opportunities to sell you additional stuff. Can I keep my current home phone number? Yes, you can. Make sure you tell your service provider when you're migrating over. Can I keep my email address? That becomes a little challenge. So for example, if you're with Telstra and your email address is bigpond.com and you're going to Optus, you may not be able to keep that email. That will change. My current home phone or modem will work with NBN network. Highly, highly likely it won't work, because there is a change of technology. Yeah, the old modems and hardware were designed to work with that type of technology, which is ADSL2 and ADSL2 plus, etc. The new ones, depending on the type of NBN connection you are getting, more often than not has to change, unless your service provider has given you a piece of hardware in the last 6 months or 12 months, which is future ready and future compatible. So that's double check with your service provider again. My services are impacted. I don't want to connect to NBN access network. So there are people who are happy with a mobile connection, mobile phone, mobile internet. So like I said in the beginning, if you have a landline, if you have a fixed line internet coming into your home and you intend to keep it, then it's kind of mandatory and compulsory that you come aboard with the NBN rollout. But if you say, you know what, this mobile does the job for me, it's got the basic internet, I can make my phone calls with it, you can be fine with that as well. You don't have to sign up for the NBN. You will lose your existing landline number, etc. in that case. So NBN rollout also impacts your lift alarms and medical alarms and emergency phones and fax machines, because the compatibility. So there are, my analysis has that 50% of the time, if you tell your service provider, they will give you the equipment which is compatible, and 50% of the time it doesn't. You'll have to just change over, because it's better to go mobile. For example, the emergency phones in my building's lifts have migrated over to a mobile network now. We do not use a landline anymore. That is the most ideal solution proposed by medical alarm companies, emergency phone companies, and fax machine is a bit iffy. There are modems and routers available from providers which are compatible with fax machines, but make sure you check that and before you sign up for something. So if you have a medical alarm, which is independent, not monitored by an agency or an organization, this is a link which tells you where you can register your medical alarm with NBN, and NBN will proactively, now this is an exception to the Nicole calling you, proactively call you and keep you updated what's happening. So if NBN is happening in your area, and it will impact your medical alarm, we will advise you what you need to do about it. You can, same as the case with emergency phone or fire alarm. You can register them on these links, and then the database will be with us, and we can proactively reach out to you when NBN is rolling out in your area. So like remember the slide I showed you in the, I think the third slide, where I had a landline phone connected to a box, and I mentioned that everything is connected to a power supply. So this is what it talks about. Because all this equipment is connected to a power supply, there's a power outage, NBN services will get impacted. Like the good old set-top box. If you have a set-top box at home, that needs a power supply. And if there's a power outage, you won't be able to watch telly. Same is the case over here. That's the reason, I gave you the example of the emergency phone in my building. Now it has switched to a mobile network, and the hardware has got a battery backup. So even when there is a power outage, that system will still work. These days, fortunately, we live in the times of mobile phones. So we suggest, and my advice too personally is, it's a good idea to have a backup phone, the mobile phone as a backup phone. And you could still use your landline as your primary phone, but it's a good idea to have a secondary phone as a mobile and keep it fully charged. So for these emergencies, like even in Lane Cove area, I think 4 or 5 months back, when there was a lot of bad weather, people didn't have electricity for 3-4 days. It was a challenge. Long story short, two of the most common questions I get in all my presentations: do I still need to switch even if I use a landline? So a national broadband network, I don't use internet, I only have a landline. Going back to my example of set-top box, if you have a landline and if your area is in that footprint where NBN rollout is happening, then yes, you will need to upgrade to an NBN connected phone only plan. Some providers have got a phone only plan as well, but at the same time, you can always get a regular plan and not use the internet, just use the landline phone. It's like your mobile phone comes with a calls and data included. If you're not using a lot of data, don't have to use the data, just use the phone for phone calls. Same as the case with a landline, NBN plan with a landline. Can I keep my phone number? 99.99% of the time, yes, you can keep your phone number. I have been able to keep my phone number for the last 15 years. And make sure you tell your service provider when you are making that switch. Because I have heard of cases where the service provider has forgotten to ask and you have forgotten to tell, and the number then is gone. So make sure that transition happens at the time of switching over. I think I'll stop over here because I think we are pretty close to what? Yeah, 30 minutes gone. Yes. So I mentioned this, so we do not call you, we do not make these automated calls. We do not call you to advise you the urgency for the, connecting to NBN. We do not advise you on plans and pricing, etc., etc. So these are all scammers trying to make the most of the situation right now. I keep getting calls from somebody claiming to be from the Federal Department of the United States of America, advising me that I have committed some illegal activities in America and I need to press 1 to be able to, sort those out. I've never been to America. And these calls are coming on my mobile phone. So I've reached a point where I see a call on my phone and the number is not something I recognize, I refuse to answer it. So it's a challenging, right now, because the data is being compromised, obviously, the various main methods. And we are filling out so many forms and information that these numbers are getting, widespread. And that's how these people lay out their hands on these numbers. Otherwise, how on earth can they lay their hands on my mobile number and give me a call? So be mindful of that, please. I was going through some statistics, and several $1,000s have been lost by these scammers in the year 2019. And there's a Scam Watch ACCC link which details all this information. On that unpleasant note of scams, I will end my monologue, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any. Otherwise, probably we can schedule a separate session for questions later on at another date, entirely up to Paul and Jim. Thank you very much for patiently listening to me.
Thank you very much, Raj. If you would like to stop sharing your screen so that we can see the participants.
That's the first thing I should do. Yes, thanks, Jim.
We'll move to questions, and as in the past, if you've got a question, raise your hand and I will poll you to ask the question. So I'm going to start with Greg. I see you're unmuted and ready to go. So Greg, do you want to ask Raj a question?
Raj, on behalf of AVPALS, thank you very much for a great presentation. I live in a block of 6 units. I'm going to be connected to the NBN next Tuesday, hopefully, but one lady is already connected with a basic plan, and she's got fibre to the curb. She got a letter from the NBN to say they had monitored her speed, and she was getting 100 megabits per second download and 45 megabits per second upload. And they said there's no sense in paying for a more expensive plan because she won't get any faster speed. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. That is the top tier plan. So 100 upload, 100 download and 40 upload is the maximum top tier speed plan available right now.
But that's what she's just paying for the basic plan. She didn't pay. They said there's no need to upgrade to a higher plan because you won't get any higher speed.
So she's paying for the basic plan, but she's getting a higher speed plan.
That's right.
Oh, good. Keep it. Shh, don't tell anybody.
That's very good. Right. I see Glenda has her hand up.
Hi. I've got a couple of things, and I live in a village, and I've also got a security button. But my first question is, do you need a separate box for your landline and your internet? And having asked that, I think my internet actually comes through my landline, I think. So I'd have to check on that, wouldn't I?
Correct, Glenda. So first thing, before I forget, you can ask your village management to reach out to me, and I can, if you want, I can do a individual session, for that village residents.
Yes, right.
Perhaps when the COVID situation eases out, I can physically visit the village and we can do that over there. In the interim, we can also do a Zoom session if required. Secondly, now, depending on the kind of technology the village is using, it could be 1 box or it could be 2 boxes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So fiber to the curb, FTTC, uses 2 boxes. Hybrid fiber coaxial uses 2 boxes. I'm not sure if I've got a box here handy with me, which I can show you. Give me one moment.
So I would find out all of that when I actually go to my provider. I'm with Optus. So I go off to Optus and I tell them that, yes, I've got this monitoring thing. Yes, I want to keep my phone number. I want to keep my email, all of those things that you wonderfully told us about. And I've got a landline and I've got internet. And I do have an iPhone, so that's fine. So, and they should be able to, I've got a very good plan with them now. So I'm hopefully, but then that leads me into another thing. Sorry for not, monopolizing, but I've had a little problem. Zoom is wonderful with speed, and I've already spoken. I think Paul got back to me. When I'm watching my church through their website, sometimes it goes ding, it drops out. So I've just tried to Google speed, do a check, that needs to be that 100 that you said.
Correct. Yeah. If you
I
can
don't know what speed it is, but it definitely Zoom, everything else is fine. It's only when I'm actually watching my church through their website that my line drops out.
Yeah. Glenda, what I'll do is I will share a link, email link with Paul. And on that, you can, because we have got a team of brand ambassadors across the country who will be more than happy to have a one-on-one chat with you and answer your queries.
Oh,
You're conscious of your time. I can see that. And, they can actually, they will answer all these questions for you, how to check your speeds, what kind of technology is coming to you specifically. So how many boxes you will need, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
They'll kind of give you a better understanding of that.
So Paul will let
I will,
you're getting. Okay. Thanks, Paul.
In case I forget, Paul, please send me a reminder email. Just I'm getting
Thank
older,
you for that. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Yes.
Okay, I see Margaret has her hand up and ready to ask a question. If you just hit the unmute button, Margaret, and
Thank you,
off
Jim.
you go.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you, Raj, for your presentation. I'm very new to the NBN and I'm thrilled to bits. I'm getting good speeds. Now, just because I'm new, we have not yet had a power outage. What my question would be, when the power is restored, do I need to do anything to the box to reset it or anything?
Good question. So more often than not, you won't have to do anything, but if you notice any challenges in terms of connectivity or something is not working right, it's never a bad idea to switch off and switch on.
Okay.
Reboot the system. I applied this in personal life as well. You're feeling stressed, go take a nap, wake up, you are all recharged and refreshed. Yeah. So can't go wrong with that. Yes.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Annette has a question.
Raj, I'm asking about a small investment unit. The current tenant works off their mobile system and the NBN has never been connected. And I'm assuming that it cannot be connected until somebody goes to a service provider who won't be installing it unless you take a contract with them. So, but I don't know what the next tenant's going to do. So who goes to the provider to get this installed? Me as the owner or they as the tenant?
Good question. Very good question. And yeah, it's not the normal one. So the tenant does not want an NBN.
Not the current one.
Yeah, not the current one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there could be a minor challenge here, because if you are in an area where the disconnection process has been scheduled, and if, for example, the tenant continues to stay beyond the disconnection process,
yes,
disconnection date,
yes,
and then the new tenant wants to get an NBN connection when he or she comes over, at that moment in time, because the disconnection date has lapsed, you will have to pay $300 as a new connection fee.
But I can't get it connected and then not use it.
Practically speaking, you can. If you do not sign a contract, there are providers who don't want you to sign a contract.
Oh, so I can get somebody to come and put the box in or whatever.
Correct. Yeah,
but not sign a contract.
Yeah, no, you still have to pay for a month.
Okay, I see.
Sign a month, get a month-to-month contract going, get the whole thing in place, and then finish the contract.
But so it's in place, and then it just sits there. Right,
yeah, but again, realistically speaking, again, I repeat myself, I like to keep things in real. So for example, if you sign a month-to-month contract, your service provider will ask for a modem fee, $250.
Yeah.
Right. So that way you pay $300 as a new connection fee. This way you pay $250 upfront.
That's a month's worth.
So it's exactly.
Okay.
If I was in your place, I would not bother about it. You never know. 1 year down the line, somebody might be, nice in Canberra and say, you know what, let's not charge $300.
They'll all be 5G anyway off a mobile network.
That's another subject. We can take 1 more hour discussing that. So let's, yeah.
Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, who's got the next question? I see Helen's got her hand up over there. Just unmute yourself, Helen.
Oh, hi, Raj. I'm very happy with my deal that I've got with Vodafone. I've got a laptop and I've got my mobile phone and I've got my smart TV. And in the last 12 months, I got a modem from them. So I don't see any necessity for me to go to NBN, where it's coming on in Warriewood this month. But since I've got the modem and I'm happy with everything, do I need to go on to NBN?
So question the basics. I mentioned this earlier. If you're happy with what you've got and you there are advantages of NBN. For example, do you know how much data you get on your Vodafone plan?
It's quite a lot of gigs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that serves the purpose for whatever you do on your internet, right?
Yeah.
So in your situation, yes, you don't have to. But desirables, for example, if you are the kinds who watches a movie on Netflix every day, then the Vodafone will be a challenge, because you will choose, no matter how much data you get, the mobile network's biggest disadvantage is limited amount of data. Whereas on the NBN, you can get unlimited data.
Right.
And once you get used to it, FaceTime, for example, my mom who lives back in India and my brother and friends who live in America and Singapore, I'm able to video call with them, especially these days and times when my social life has become, nothing. So it comes in, and that is possible because I have got unlimited data.
Right.
So there are advantages of having NBN. It's, in my opinion, it's an essential utility, pretty much like your electricity and gas at home. But I see your point, we're not doing a lot. The mobiles are there and the data is there. So yeah, you can get by. You can probably cross the bridge whenever you feel the need to, have a better kind of internet connection in terms of data. Yeah.
If I got a iPad, would that put more stress on my reception?
Reception.
Well, would it put more
Yes.
on downloading?
Yeah. So your modem is your junction box. It's like your roundabout, which is dealing with all the internet traffic in your home. The more devices you add in your home, the roundabout gets congested.
Oh, right.
So your iPad, your mobile phone, your computer, your laptop, your smart TV, that makes 5 devices. Now, all those 5 devices are going through that modem, and that modem is doing the job of managing the traffic, the internet traffic from the outside world to your devices.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Helen. Who else has a question they would like to ask Raj? John, would you go ahead? Just unmute yourself.
Thank you, Jim. Raj, I have a digital radio which is connected to the internet. I'm on the NBN and I connect to the internet by Wi-Fi. Every so often it drops out for a few seconds. And I ask myself, is the problem with the internet Wi-Fi connection, or with the NBN, or with ABC radio at the far end?
Okay.
Thank you.
So 2 questions for you. Actually, 1 question right now. Do you have anything connected via a cable to that modem?
No, only the telephone.
Only the telephone. Okay. So now your Wi-Fi, your router could be acting temperamental. So the router could be having some kind of a glitch, which is making the Wi-Fi, reception in your home go on and off. It's pretty much like shortwave radio.
Right. It's been like this for several months.
So speak to your service provider. Speak to your service provider. They might be able to sort something in the back end, one option. They might be able to replace the router, or they might be, does it happen only with your radio, or does it happen with anything, everything?
Just the radio.
Do you use a laptop?
Yes.
Anything happens with the laptop? Some dropouts?
No, not like that, no.
Then logical deduction says that the problem seems to be with your radio.
Right.
Is it further away than the laptop from the router?
Yes, it is. It's about 11 meters away from the modem.
Compared to the laptop, etc., is a lot closer.
It's much closer, yes.
Oh, okay. So it could be that these routers have a range, you know. So with the radio, it might be kind of on the outer periphery of that range. So the radio and the router might be having a bit of a difficulty in communicating with each other. You could perhaps test that by coming closer to the router.
Yes.
And test it out a couple of times. If it works fine when you're close to the router compared to when you're far away from the router, then problem identified.
Yes.
Yes, the router range is a problem. There are solutions to that. We can talk about that. Yeah. But at least first let's identify what the problem is. But it seems to me if your laptop is working fine, if your mobile is working fine, and only radio is the challenge, which means it appears to be that because of the distance, the communication is not happening the way it should happen.
Thank you.
Another question from Glenda. Unmute yourself, Glenda.
Yep. Just one quick clarifying, do I need a separate box for my landline and when I get onto the NBN and for my internet? Or when I go to my provider, go to Optus, will they just give me one box?
Depends on the type of technology, Glenda.
Sorry?
So it could depends on the type of technology, type of NBN connection.
Right.
You might get 2 boxes or you might get 1 box.
Right. Okay.
Like in my case, I live in a fiber to the building area, so I've got 1 box. But my mate who lives in a fiber to the curb area, he's got 2 boxes.
Well, my NBN pit is almost outside my door. One of the pits in the village.
Not to worry, Glenda. Like I said, I will share the link with Paul, and then my colleague, I will get Michael or even myself. I'll speak to you, and we can go through the whole. I can check your village's address and find out what kind of technology is coming to you, and then we can take the conversation from there.
Thank you, Glenda. I've got a question there from Jeanette. You've just hit the unmute, Jeanette. Jeanette, we can't hear you. If you could hit the
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Sorry. One of my emails is BigPond. Does that mean I have to go with Telstra?
If you intend to keep your
for my internet provider, for my NBN provider.
If you intend to keep your email.
Sorry, I can't hear.
If you intend to keep your email.
I think what Raj is saying is
Right.
if you want to keep a BigPond email address, you will have to keep some form of connection with BigPond. It doesn't mean that you need to have an NBN connection. You can pay BigPond to just keep your email address.
I've heard of that too, yes.
It used to be about $10 a year, but it's probably gone up. I haven't looked at it for a while.
Yeah.
So you can ask Telstra how much it will cost to keep the email address.
Right.
They'll tell
So
you.
And another quick question.
Yeah, you go.
What is the benefit or the keeping a landline? Because many people have said you do not get scam phone calls.
Yes, true.
If you only go to NBN.
Well, I just gave an example. I'm getting scam calls on my mobile phone.
Oh, well.
Yeah. So no, but there is some truth in that. Yes, you have kind of, removed one option for the scammers. Yeah. But
right, thank you.
in my I'll give you an advantage of a landline. For example, I've got friends in America, and for those guys, it's cheaper to call an Australian landline than a mobile phone. To call an Australian landline, it costs them only 2 cents a minute. Whereas in comparison to call an Australian mobile number, it cost them 20 cents a minute. So the nice guy that I am, for their interest, I have kept my landline.
Yes,
It's no
thank
benefit
you.
to me, yeah.
I think Paul has a comment or a question.
Jim, I just looked it up for your interest. You get a free service for 30 days from Telstra if you want to keep your BigPond email address. If you notify them, they will give you the first 12 months for free. And after that, it's $79 a year.
Oh,
That information is very useful for me too. I didn't know that.
Good.
Thank you, Paul.
thanks, Paul. Have we any more questions? I think at this point, it's my time to say